What's up, people? Welcome back to another How to Do Stuff. Today we're going to be talking about world building. What the hell is world building? And today I thought I would come to a lovely part of the world that's here on Vancouver Island. This is Sydney Spit, or Sydney Island, a little tiny private beach that's only accessible via a boat. And fortunately, I know someone who has a boat. And I thought, while I'm in this beautiful part of the world, what better time is there to discuss world building? So what the hell is world building? What do you mean build a world? That's preposterous, surely.
What? No.
Every author, even outside fantasy, has to build a world to some degree. So what do I mean by world? Well, the world is the setting of the novel. It's where the story takes place. It's the landscapes that your characters stride across and get up to stuff on. The beauty of being an author is that that world is completely up to you. Your world could be huge, it can span continents and even multiple different numerous worlds. Or it could be small, it could be the inside of a castle during a siege, or it could be just a room, a prison cell, who knows? So as we looked at in the first video, fantasy worlds should be complex, they should be fantastical, they should be detailed, rich, like as if you're opening a window or a door into that world. Another important thing to remember is that in fantasy, worlds don't just have to be a canvas or a stage and be a setting just in themselves. They can actually play a role in the story. They can almost be a character within themselves. For example, let's take that awesome film, Waterworld. One of my absolute childhood favorites. In that world, there is only water. Land is a myth. So that obviously plays a part in how your characters live their day-to-day lives. They need to find fresh water instead of salt water. They need a boat, of course. How does it affect human beings physiologically? And you'll know if you watch the film. Whatever our worlds look like, or whatever role you want that world to play in your novel, the fun part is just coming up with them. What I'm going to talk about today is my method of world building, which is, as I referenced in the first video, what I like to call the Funhouse Mirror. So the great thing about fantasy is that fantasy worlds can be incredible. They could be so outlandish and outside the box and out of this world. That's absolutely fine because that's part of the genre. That's what's referred to as secondary world fantasy. Or you can do something that's very common in weird fiction and urban fantasy, which is adding a layer of fantasticalness underneath our usual world, the world we know and recognize, like a fairy kingdom living under the streets of London or New York, for example. Once again, completely up to you. You're the author, your world, you decide.
Phenomenal cosmic power!
But whatever your world is going to be, the Funhouse Mirror still applies. My method of world building is to look at our own world and transpose elements of it into a fantasy world, no matter how secondary or how close to home. What I mean by that is examining all the different facets that we have in our world or our cultures, no matter what culture you're from, and adding those elements or not into our fantasy world. By doing that, we make sure we cover the whole breadth of culture and the world that we see around us, provide something recognizable and understandable to the reader, and at the same time, make sure we're adding, like we're ticking boxes, layers and layers of complexity, richness, and originality. So let's reel off a couple of those facets that are around us. We have the landscape itself. What does the earth look like? Flora, fauna. There's a bald eagle over there hunting something, which is fantastic. There's transport. How do we get around? Do we use beasts of burden or do we have machines? Or even recreation. What do we do for fun? What do we buy things with? What's the currency? There's religion, there's culture, there's the military, there's the arts, there's weather. How is society built? What are the laws? What are the rules? As you can probably guess, that list can go on and on and on. However, by going through that examination and asking yourselves those questions, like, is there a religion? What do people do for fun? Can you eat that? You'll be able to flesh out your world almost completely. You know your world inside and out, how it influences your characters, how it revolves back to the plot. And then the fun part is deciding which bits to show the reader. You don't have to include all of it. Part of the fun with fantasy books is just dripping in a little name or a mention of something, and that adds so much richness and makes your world seem even larger to the reader. And that's where you get the escapism and the engagement and the intrigue and all that wonderful fantasy goodness that we've talked about in previous videos. And that's why I call it the Funhouse Mirror. It's a reflection of our world, but it's understandable and accessible to the reader. But at the same time, bits have been skewed and warped and don't quite look the same as we recognize them. And how warped and how twisted and how fun you make your Funhouse Mirror is all down to you. And that is how I world build. And it really is one of my favorite parts of the writing process, if not my absolute favorite. Why? Because I get to ask myself questions and come up with fictional answers. What could be better than just sitting down and dreaming up a whole world from scratch? I love getting to that stage. I just sit there for a day or two, ask myself those questions, think about all the different facets of the world, and just dream up a load of crazy shit. So I hope my Funhouse Mirror method of world building is useful. I hope it helps you build some fantastical worlds. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for all the future videos that are coming out in this how-to series I'm doing. All that amazing goodness to come. Thanks for watching. In the meantime, I think I might go dig a hole. Take it easy. Happy writing.